All right, looks like we're good to go. I want to welcome everybody to the Wednesday, September 11th, 2024 meeting of the CCWD directors. Would you all please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, would you please call the roll?
Director Cicada?
Here.
Director Davidson?
Here.
Director Underhill?
Here.
President Thomas?
I am here.
And Director Radaman is absent today.
Okay, item number 2, public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized items. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for future consideration. And any comments would be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any? There's no one here, but online, I guess, huh?
Good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies.
Good afternoon.
This is Francisco de la Cruz, and I'll be making the similar comments as I did in yesterday's engineering committee meeting, requesting a more frequent detailed status of where our grant efforts are, which grants we've qualified for, applied for, in process, or have been approved and denied. So we can maybe see some hope for some rate relief when those start to come online. The other one was on project status reports. Do we have milestones, time-based milestones that we're shooting for the delivery of those, or are those so subject to slippage that it's a waste of time to track? Thank you.
All right, so noted. Anyone else wishing to make a public comment? Nope. All right, moving on to the, whoops. I see PR for Pat Roy, I guess.
It is. It's Pat again. I'd just like to thank Michael for sending the linked document over for my review yesterday afternoon. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That's all.
You're welcome. Very good. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. The following items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. Items will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member may request that any item be removed for later consideration. So we have item 3A.
Set them up to
them. What's that?
That wasn't.
All right. We have 3A, approval of the minutes of the board meeting of August 28th. 3B, review board director's monthly timesheets. 3C, ratify claim summary 630 secretarial fund in the amount of $3,641,444.48. And then 3D, approval of the credit adjustments for APN 023051013.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would you please poll the board?
Okay. Director Cicada?
Yes.
Director Davidson?
Yes.
Director Underhill?
Yes.
President Thomas?
Yes. Item 4, new business. 4A, discussion action regarding an amendment for Blackwater Engineering for design of the new water storage tank at the Wallace CIP number 11083W. Hello, Kevin.
I was here today to talk about the Wallace tank replacement. So recently we approved a contract for Blackwater consulting engineers to design the new sawmill tank up in Arnold. And then the next project that we have on our our list for the tank rehabilitation program is the Wallace Tank. It's a Wallace water treatment plant. It's a groundwater source, and the groundwater pumps through the treatment plant into this ground level tank. And from this tank, it's pumped up to the elevated tank. So the two tanks, the tank we're talking about replacing is the ground level tank. So this tank will be replaced with a glass line bolted steel tank, similar design that we have. We'll be designing for up at Sawmill. So we thought it would be efficient if we include this under the same construction contract as the Sawmill tank. It's more desirable for contractors to bid on projects that have more work available. And then also the efficiencies in managing the construction project and the ability to have continuity between two projects. So today this was discussed in detail yesterday at the engineering committee. The engineering committee recommended that we bring it to the full board for consideration. There was a slight adjustment on the price based on discussions that we had during and prior to the engineering committee, and there's some efficiencies that Blackwater found that reduced their not to exceed amount to $341,947. So we'll make that'll be the amount that we issue the contract to Blackwater for the amendment to their existing professional service agreement. And so yeah, we can if there's any questions that you have.
I'm always concerned about CIPs, you know.
Yeah. So this
Is this pretty tight? Is it pretty tight?
Yeah, this is our CIP program. So we have we got a list of tanks that we're working our way through, that are been, they're done with their life. This one's definitely in bad condition and needs to be replaced. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Is that a question you asked?
Oh, yeah, no. When they're asking for more money, this is what.
Oh, so this is a whole
Not
other
bad.
project that we're adding to the existing project. So there's tanks up in Arnold that we're in the process of designing. So we want to hire the same design consultant to design these tanks down here and put it together in one package to
Okay,
bid
so-
them together.
And
This was already part of our CIP.
Yeah, it's already included in the CIP. We have budget and CIP for this work. This is just, we're going through, this is actually the last item we have in our CIP for this year that we haven't started. So we're moving through it pretty well.
And you don't anticipate any cost overruns?
Well, there's additional costs for adding this tank to the project. and
Right,
that's-
no, but that should wrap it up.
As far as the cost of runs, no, this is a not to exceed amount for this consultant, so it includes construction assistance. So like when the project goes into construction, it includes their review because they're the engineer of record. We would like to extend their services into the construction contract. That way they're responsible for the design throughout the process.
So it's pretty tight.
There is, Bertha, there is a line on at the bottom for anticipated change orders.
That's the word I want.
So-
Yes, that's the word I
And,
want.
and I mean, that's something that, is on us if we make changes to the scope. And that
Uh-huh.
there's an assumption. So if they don't occur, I assume that line item comes off, right?
Yeah, whenever you're digging up old pipe in the ground, there's always stuff that comes up that, you didn't know was there, or conflicts or something that needs to be adjusted in the field. This isn't money to pay the contractor. This is money for support if the engineer has to redesign plan sheets because there's something different than what our as-built show or that type of thing.
That's a good question, our as-bills, because when we took over, or when Wallace Lake Estates asked us to take over, do we have a thorough set of as-bills? I mean, because I know that was all done privately. They did that, outside of CCWD.
Yeah, we have the original project drawings from the treatment plant. We don't have any marked up as-built. And I can tell by looking at, there's some variations between the original design and what's built out there.
So that is a question to be concerned about.
Yeah, so we're gonna do is, if this is approved, we're gonna have a more thorough site visit with Blackwater on Friday to go through the project and go through the details. and so we can get them started quickly.
So Russ, you care what?
Well, I just had a couple of questions I
Go ahead.
wanted to ask.
It's up to you.
Really?
Who's the president?
You're the boss.
Kevin, I've heard you say a number of times that these types of proposals are not to exceed. But I remember one of the tenets of business administration education is that the task will always expand to meet the time and the money allocated. So that's why I drilled down on this thing a little bit to see if was any fluff in it, and we got $20,000 suggested reduction just because of asking the question. But please keep in mind that if there is a deductive change order, it does not come off the list at the same price that it went onto the list. I mean, they keep the anticipated administration and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not trying to lecture you. I'm just trying to tell you the reality that we have to look at these things very seriously and tamp them down. Tamp them down at the beginning. So
Yeah, we try to make the most efficient design possible so that, not only is if you pay a little bit more ahead of time for a good design, the cost is a lot less than during construction when you got a mistake and you got a crew out there that's got to do the work. So I think it's investing in the project early in the design and making sure we got a good set of plans is very important, because if you don't spend the money up front to get some quality product, you're going to end up spending a lot more money in the field.
yeah, well, I hope that the when the projects get bid, that the contractors will give us a fair price. So
And
Anyway.
we've worked with Blackwater for several years.
Yeah, they did the Hunter's raw water pumps. So we're at 90% design there, and we're just waiting for the FEMA funding on that to come through for the construction, and we'll put that one out to bid. But yeah, they were
Any
very
questions?
responsive and
Just a couple of things.
did a good job.
Director Cicada has a question.
Okay, so you brought up the as-built, the plans on this spreadsheet that we have. Is that what item number 6, the last line, record drawings, are those as-built? So it's kind
Yes.
of
So that'd
priced
be,
in for it?
that'd be for the new project. So we make sure we get as-built. So in the future, if
Perfect.
somebody needs to go back and find out where a buried pipe is.
Right, no, as-built are important, so it is priced in here, that's good. And then I did listen to the engineering committee meeting yesterday. I thought it was really informative, thank you. And it was brought up about working with the county to see what their county plan is. And I'm wondering, I didn't notice how that we are going to do that. You folks were going to do it on a regular basis? Are you already do it?
Yeah, so when we
Expand on that.
look at a new project, we look at the possible developments in the area based on the county plan. Make sure that we can't plan for anything more than what they have in their plan. And we can't use existing ratepayers' money for expansion. So we want to make sure that we're being efficient, that this design can be expandable in the future. So we want to make sure that, if a second tank has to be added in the future, that it's situated appropriately, and there's space for another tank and the potential connection to piping and that type of stuff. So that's the kind of stuff we'll look at, and does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. And so when the design is complete and we get those, the report, it'll probably be mentioned in there, some comment about what you found regarding the county plan and if this particular project is affected by the plan at all, right? And would there be a comment in their report at least?
Yeah, well, in the pre-design report, you should address the amount of residential units we have now, and if there's any planned future growth in the area, it would say, there's so much growth, and that we base the size of the tank on what's there now, and and what's efficient for the money we have.
That was it. Thank you.
Okay, and Jeff, did you have any?
No, I would want to make clear that what's in the agenda is different than this, and this is what we're going to be approving
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
bottom line from,
Yeah, we'll be issuing the contract for this lesser amount.
okay, all right. So the 341, 9747.
Yeah, we'll write the amendment for that amount to Blackwater.
Well, I'll move for acceptance, as amended, based on the engineering committee's recommendation, yesterday.
Second,
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Rebecca, would you please poll the board on this?
You want the public comment, Russ?
Oh, yeah, of course. Any public comment? I
Of
see
course.
Francisco.
Of course. Thank you, Cindy, for bringing up Director Davidson's concerns yesterday. I was going to ask if he had his questions answered, and I think Kevin answered it in the form that is acceptable to me, and that his response to the impact of growth will be documented in the pre-design phase of this project. Correct?
That's what I heard.
That's how I
That's
understand.
how me too.
Yes.
Fantastic. Then I'm a happy camper. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Kevin.
any other public comment? All right, anybody on a cell phone that cannot alert us, speak up now. All right, would you please poll the board?
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Underhill,
yes.
President Thomas.
Yes. All right, we could get through in record time, huh?
I know. What's wrong?
Okay.
Don't let it,
Don't
let it distract you.
Don't let it wiggle.
Yeah.
Okay, we're down to item number 5, reports. We have our much anticipated, where is the drum roll? Okay, report on the August 2024 Operations Department.
Good afternoon, President Thomas, directors. So August was characterized by the usual suspects, 37 service line repairs in the Rancho Calaveras area, 17 in Copper, 6 on the pass, 5 in West Point. One item to highlight, thank you, is the fact that there were 86 items within the electrical component of the office report. So hats off to the electricians. They do a ton of work. Excuse me. And also 343 USAs or underground service alerts. And so we're at 2,752 USAs over the course of the past year. And all the yards that you can see associated with PG&E's strengthening of their infrastructure has direct impact on CCWD staff and infrastructure in terms of underground service alerts, which have an associated cost, a couple bucks per for each USA. So,
With the PG&E request for, identifying the lines on the USA alert,
yep,
we had to pay for every one of those essentially, right?
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're in a block, depending on 1 to 500, you pay $300, 500 and up, you pay more, 1,000 and up, you pay
And
more.
do we pay in arrears for that membership?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after we've done all the identifying and how many tickets, then we're billed for the next membership.
That's
At
correct.
that,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And PG&E is actually the largest. They pay the most also, so they complete the most USAs in the state as well. And I think number 2 is, I think it's Pac Bell. So yeah, interestingly enough. And they keep track of all the folks, even down to there's one USA for a little small utility in the state. So pay $300 for that USA.
It's important for sure.
It definitely is. Yes, absolutely. So, as you all know, particularly Director Davidson, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we've got to start in Rancho
Will there
Calaveras.
be any holds this time?
Yeah, so we do.
Yeah.
So here we are with the wire replacement on Dolly. So these come up when the service lines are replaced. Oftentimes it's the result of the failing flare on the water main. So in the image on the right, you can just see the water main is partially exposed with the flare connected. And the great work that the Judy Lynn crew is doing, you can see the service pulled out of the ground with multiple repair clamps on it. So, with 37 service lines over the last year, we're still in the noise phase of kind of what are we looking at in terms of failure? We have just too many right now, and so we need to get ahead of that. That's part of the good work our utility crew does. Excuse me, this was an interesting one. Service line on Baldwin that was sleeved in a piece of plastic that developed a leak. So our folks replaced the entire service line. And you can see it sitting in the conduit there in the image on the right and the left. But what's really interesting is the poly developed this like blistering. And we think it could be from the heat sitting inside the piece of conduit
That what that is?
and getting hot. Our guys out in the field had never seen it before. It's really interesting one. So
Do you, that particular material it's made out of, do we have a lot of that out in the field?
but we do, we have a ton of it. Most of the service lines in this service area, actually all of our service areas are made out of polypropylene. So we've seen it flake off, almost like if you can imagine like a corn flake coming off the poly, but not bubbling like that. At least these folks have not seen that.
Is that something that could cause a break?
I would definitely think it would have an impact on the integrity of the service line over time, but it does. I have a piece of it in my office. Actually, I was going to bring it, but I forgot that. So you can see the inside of the line, and it doesn't
Look like that?
It's not that. So I would say over time, I'm sure, but in this case, it wasn't the result of this.
How
failure.
long had this one been in the ground? Any idea?
I mean, judging, I would say for quite some time, perhaps 20 years, but that's just a guess at this point.
Could it have been damaged like that in the beginning and then they sleeved it because it was damaged?
Good point. Could have been. Could have been. It's just kind of one of those ones that makes you scratch your head a little bit.
Because there shouldn't be, any air or any,
Right.
there shouldn't be anything to
Yeah.
create heat down in there.
Yeah. That's a good point you make, actually.
Could it have been
Could have already.
bubbled like
Yeah,
that and they used it anyway?
Yeah, let's put a
You know,
sleeve on.
storage.
Hey, it's bubbling. Let's put a sleeve. Yeah.
that makes sense.
Take them a while. So, more of the same service line and curb stop replacement along Hotley. And, can't say enough great things about the work our folks do. Kind of the new flavor in the image on the right is you see a new Mueller meter with a node next to it. With the meter box lid somewhat askew, the node is actually the antenna. So that's kind of what some of our meters down in the low country look like now. I guess they're called high pressure meters there. 2-inch main repair on Pastorello. So this is the infamous Bluebell that our folks got in there and repaired during the month of August. You can see the full circle repair clamp on that 2-inch. Hydrant repair. So we had conversations last month with the fire protection groups. We kind of after action review of the Arrow fire, we talked about how the district works with local fire departments to ensure the integrity of fire hydrants. This is more of that conversation along Hogan Dam Parkway. We have a stretch of distribution system and this fire hydrant was out of service. And so kind of walking through the stem with the bolt at the base of the stem, you can see it had just broken off in the image on the right. So our folks will go in and take repair components and replace the failed components and rebuild the fire hydrant. So you can see the cleaning of the stem in the image on the left, getting off the corrosion, the image on the right, the breakaway flange being replaced, the body of the hydrant being put back after everything is cleaned and the breakable parts are rehabilitated. So, can't say enough great things about the work our folks do. This is an interesting one. So we have some of our meter boxes that are just continually getting damaged from vehicle traffic. And so sometimes we'll install bollards to protect the meters, and that's what we did here in this case. So the distribution crew members, poured steel pipe filled with concrete in front of in this case, it's a fire hydrant, and then paint those safety yellow to keep our infrastructure. And actually, there's a meter, keep everything protected. Great work there. This one's an interesting one, Dunn Road. So we've had, I talk about how some of our service line work effort is still in the noise phase. And so this was I would say if you could use the word victim of that, that would be what I would use. So this leak on Dunn Road had been taking place for years. And there was just simply so many service line leaks, and the water all like to travel from those leaks into this area along Dunn Road. So anytime we would expose this main and try to find where this water main leak was, we would just have water coming in from all directions and really just unrecognizable. So there was no ability to really define where the leak was coming from. And so the utility crew last year replaced all the service lines along Dunn Road and the county actually addressed some stormwater along Dunn Road, and we still had water. And so in August, the construction crew worked with the distribution crew, and Pat Burkhart, our construction maintenance manager, actually out in the ditch working with the guys. They found this leak that has been leaking for approximately 15 to 18 years.
And that's this one that
And
we
that's
see
it.
picture.
So it's been repaired. And the image on the right, with the black rubber beneath the full circle repair clamp is simply just blown out. So there was a repair at some point in time, and that rubber had just blown out over time, and it was weeping and causing a leak. And so hats off to the guys for finding that
Yeah,
and fixing that. And that one's a good one. Here's one in copper. So AC mains, oftentimes in the dry weather, well, I guess, oftentimes they do what's called shear breaks. So the main will just literally break kind of in a perfect circle or a ring around the main, and that's what we have here. And so those are repaired with a full circle clamp. And this is a cross-country line that feeds the Reed's Turnpike pump station. So really a critical line that needed to be repaired after hours repair. Was ID'd kind of late, and the folks out in the copper distribution crew did a great job getting after it and getting it fixed. Here's one in West Point. So this is a 2-inch raw line right at the base of the Bummerville Reservoir Dam face. And so there was a significant amount of water coming out of the dam in front of the dam, which can, as you imagine, can, freak everybody out pretty quickly. And so Doug did a great job up in West Point of diving in and understanding what was actually going on. And it's turned out to be a valve. You can see the brass kind of just falling apart in the image on the left. And so he was able to get in with the operator, Scott Grutzmacher, and they were able to replace that failed valve and piping and install a new valve and new piping, and then reestablish the G5 lids on the line. So hats off to them for knocking that one out.
If you could go back to the prior slide, there's the 2-inch raw main right there. Yeah, on the previous one, yeah. There's an orange tool there. It looks like it's a jackhammer, but is it a battery powered jackhammer?
Yeah, it looks like it's a battery powered sawzall, I
Sawzall,
believe. But is that a little jackhammer?
Cutting the vines.
Well, it's a little spade.
Yeah, oh,
He had one of those small jackhammers.
he does have, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, a little battery powered jackhammer.
Nice.
With a little spade bit on it.
That's what it looked like to me.
I would have loved to have had one of those when I was digging in tools. It would have been great.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Middle Fork Pump Station. So as you all know, Middle Fork is a secondary source of supply for the West Point Water Treatment Facility. And, over the past few years, we've had a significant amount of debris buildup down at the pump station. So the treatment and distribution crews that work down there together worked closely with our facilities maintenance folks, and were able to pull out all the snags and debris that were stuck in front of the intake there on the Middle Fork. And as you can see, it's quite a pile. So moving up the hill to Arnold's, and reflecting back again on the relationship with the fire protection districts. This one's an interesting one. The image on the left, you can see the hydrant on Veneto just, partially buried. I think that was even brought up in the conversation about fire hydrant O&M. And so this was a replaced fire hydrant. You can see the valve and the hydrant in the image on the right with the exposed ditch there. And so just hats off to the construction crew for the great work that they do, because you take a hydrant that, was partially buried somewhat in the bushes a little bit, with some growth around it, and then put a concrete apron around it with the valve, and that's just much more effective,
Look how beautiful.
much easier to operate. Yeah, and it's super helpful. So
Yeah.
How long did it take them to drill that hole?
Is that a couple day effort right there? That's a 1 day effort for the whole shoot match. I mean,
They took their,
yeah, take the backhoe and, yep, excavate and yep. So some other work that the construction crew was able to do with our distribution crew up in Arnold was an abandon an old PRV that was made obsolete through the Reach 3A project. And you can see the condition of that piping in the image on the left in that vault. Just, corroded and old. And so we were able to eliminate the PRV and blind flange the piping. And then, you're not really doing your job unless you're also looking at cost-effective ways to reuse equipment and infrastructure. So that box went home with the construction crew and it will be deployed elsewhere at a different capacity. So that's great work. Yeah, it's always good to see that.
what kind of inventory do you have on PRVs? Anything?
We do. That's a great question though, because in the past couple of years, we have budgeted to have replacement PRVs installed. So oftentimes what will happen is we'll have a 6-inch or a 4-inch PRV in say in the White Pines barn or in the shop here at the yard. And then that's usually it. So if we're going to have like a large 8-inch PRV with a bypass, we're going to order that through capital outlay through the budget process. And once we receive it, we're going to make a plan to install it. So almost as if you were on cue, Director Underhill.
Oh, that was nothing.
The Dorrington pump station PRV replacement was one thing that the construction and the distribution crew recently completed in the month of August. They did a fabulous job. And one thing we don't really highlight enough is the amount of planning and consideration that the guys out in the field take into doing these jobs. And so you can see, this is a couple of the images here to illustrate kind of the thought process. So they're going to look at maps. They're going to look at, if we have them, as-builts. And then they're going to look at what they found via potholing out in the field to verify whether or not as-builts exist. Let's verify that information. Is the pipe where it says it is? And so then they take that all of that information and they develop a plan. And that's what you see in the image on the left is Joe does a fabulous job, works with Roger and the rest of Pat's teams to kind of develop a game plan. And then they understand that we're going to need to put kickers on this piping. And so the guys build forms for kickers so that when they do install the piping, they have forms ready to go. And that's kind of,
That's what these are.
yeah. And then so kind of taking it even a step further is then there's the conversation with Kelly G that happens and with customer service about notification and letting everybody know, hey, we're going to complete this work effort. There's going to be a water outage. And let's also put up signage to notify everybody. And so that's what you see here. Signage, kind of just letting everybody know, let's keep that signage up for a couple of weeks. Let everyone start to understand, okay, this is actually going to happen. And then let's replace that good old redwood box that has a really critical pressure reducing valve in it next to a pump station that's probably been there for, 50 years. And so then the work happens and you can see the piping, inlet and outlet piping being plumbed. In the image here on the right on the screen, you can just see the PRV up at the top of the screen. And then here's one of the kickers that was fabricated in the shop. The guys were able to put it in. And then you can see the crane, which we have to schedule, setting the pressure reducing valve vault.
So this is a given, I'm sure. So because that kicker, that cement block, it's keeping that turn of water from releasing or breaking or whatever.
That's right. That's right.
Cool.
So it just illustrates the consideration that our guys have. They're understanding the hydraulics of what the work is that they're about to do. And they're preparing to address any deficiencies that might happen.
Well,
while
that's
they-
why we have such good staff out there.
Yeah, it's great stuff. It's just really great. And so, the vault in the image on the left is set. Joe and company taking a breath and taking a look at the work that was done. And so hats off to them. That was a big job.
Absolutely.
And they knocked it out. PRV's in operation currently and everything's smooth, knock on wood. New valve installations. So, along with the considerations for installation of new construction come the considerations of how do we optimize our system and make it better. So some months ago, we had a water main break that resulted in Snowshoe Springs HOA, which receives purchased wholesale water directly from us. having to reduce their use and some folks were out of water. Our folks in the distribution crew were able to look at a way to provide a redundant source of supply. Like if we install a valve right here, if we have an issue over here on this part of our system, we can actually keep them in water by sending water this way. And so that's what part of what this work effort was, is a way to optimize our system and provide better customer service to our friends, neighbors, and customers. So that work always continues, as does the work with the CAL FIRE crew. So those folks do great work for us. And here's some images of the work that they did recently at the White Pines barn and on the approach to White Pines, just making sure that our facilities are safe, the defensible space is intact. The good old Forest Meadows Pond, doing cleaning work around that. They come down like a swarm of bees and clean it all up. So hats off to Ron, Rose, and Eric Martinez, who work with the CAL FIRE crews, and hats off to the crews for all the good work they've done. I mentioned the electricians had 86 items. A lot of them are associated with, here's an ABB Magmaster flow meter troubleshooting at sea tanker copper. So the flow meter dies. Treatment operators can't see what the flow is on the computer system on SCADA, remote from the facility. Electricians deploy, find out what the heck's going on and fix it. And these guys the variability of tasks that they take on and complete is impressive. So here we are. You call this a nitrogen compressor, but it's actually an air compressor. But at an ozone generator, you're siphoning off the nitrogen that exists naturally in the air, but you're using an air compressor to do so. So here they are, repairing the air compressor. Hour meters are critical. So we talk about infrastructure and infrastructure age and replacement. So we have hour meters on our pumps and motors, and our operators document the hours and will adjust the operations of pumps based on how old or how much operation each of the pumps has. So it's really important that those hour meters work.
What's the life expectancy of a pump in hours?
Oh, you can get 8,000 to 10,000 hours out of a pump easily if you maintain it properly, easily. And I would say probably double that, 10 years of pump operation. Yeah. Flow meter reads are critical for all of our facilities. And so when you have an erratic flow meter and you have to troubleshoot that, you call the electricians out, and they do a great job of taking care of business there. Hats off to Doug Turner and Scott Grutzmacher up in West Point. Do a great job of meeting our needs up there. And with that, do you all have any questions?
Awesome.
Yeah, Damon, could you toggle back to slide 27? It's an old PRV abandonment. All right there. I noticed this when you had it up there before, that there's a lot of dirt, rocks, and debris in the bottom of that. Whether that's the old redwood tank or a concrete tank, but is that coming up through gopher activity or something in the bottom of the vault?
I'm not sure about this particular vault, but some of the vaults were at a depth that somewhere in the past the district added rock to the bottom of some of these PRVs to make them shallower. So I don't know if you guys recall.
That's off of it was vertical. That used to be a redwood box. We had to replace that several years ago. Now it's just attached to the 3A.
So I would just say that's the floor then. That's the dirt on the floor for that particular PRV vault.
But it looks like that the dirt has come up to the midpoint of the piping or something. But my question was, you have these new vaults that you're putting in. Do you ever put like a very poor cement mixtures in the bottom just to keep rodents and stuff from coming out?
Yes, all manner. I was going to see if we can see it here in this one, and it's kind of hard to see. All manner of the above. So some of them have floors. Some of them you'll pour the floor. A lot of the work that the guys up in the past have been doing is if there isn't a drain in the floor, because a lot of the reason that's why there wouldn't be a floor. And so you can allow the water that gets in there to just naturally perk into the ground.
Sure.
But a lot of what our guys do is they go out with a hole saw and they drill a hole and they work to make a port to evacuate any water that shows up to the vault, you know, from failure of piping or whatnot. But we have all manner of the above. Yep.
Good pictures, like them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just had one question.
Yeah.
I know we've been talking about this lead
Yes.
thing, and you did have a notation that you participated in to review the plan for lead service line inventory. So, you know, there is a plan.
Yeah. So the plan is in effect and it's almost complete. So
Okay.
with the lead service line inventory, if just a real quick, all public water utilities in the country are required to complete an inventory for customer-owned service lines and provide an understanding of what it's made out of. Is it lead? Is it galvanized? Is it galvanized in need of replacement? Is it copper? Is it plastic? Is it PVC? Is it polypropylene? And so there's a couple ways that the feds are allowing water districts to do this. And one is by statistical analysis. So CCWD presented a plan to the California regulatory bodies who then report to the EPA. That was a statistical analysis. So what we did is rather than look at all 13,000 plus service lines, we looked at a random representation right around a little over 1,000. And based on that assessment, we report out. So we have until October 16th to
I
complete
knew
the
it
work
was
effort,
coming up, right.
And
Uh-huh.
we have, as of right now, about 400 left, less than 400. So our crews are doing a fabulous job and they're ahead of schedule.
Because I know we had,
Yeah.
because we had talked about how extensive that was going to be. And if you're almost through, you guys have done wonders.
Yeah, and I gotta acknowledge our mobile MMS folks, our colleagues over there that work with us, because they highlighted the statistical analysis option and made the recommendation to us. And that was a great help because that allowed us to just do a representation. And it's really kind of made this giant behemoth a lot smaller for CCWD. I will tell you that a lot of utilities have not even started, and a lot of larger cities have not even started. And, you know, in some ways, rightly so, because a lot of folks in California were continuing to say, hey, feds, time out. How are we supposed to tell you what private homeowners infrastructure is made out of? And how are you going to require that of us? So there's a lot of folks still trying to understand the requirement. And so we were able to look at 1,000 and knock it out. That's a victory for us.
Oh, well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's just great. Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to ask you if this would be a real tough one for you to do, and I don't think so. Could you just give 2 months of water production?
So we have.
I know you have June.
Yeah, so we have basically the last 9 years of consumption aggregated, but we could give you a kind of a 2-month look at water production and the difference.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
It,
yeah.
just for my information, I don't know, but how anybody.
I think it's a great thing to be looking at.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No
I
problem.
agree. I think others do too.
We could kind of do it similar to the consumption in a graph form. Is that what?
Right. No, that would be perfect. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
And then I only had one question, and I was reading where was it? You were talking about Baldwin, for example, the Jenny Lind distribution system, and how many trouble spots you have. And my goodness, it's just, I mean, do they call in boom, boom, boom?
Yeah. And it's always boom. So our guys they'll complete the work effort. The utility crew will complete the replacement effort, and we're still generating customer service, still receiving calls. And then we put them on what we have. The guys at the shop have a board where they keep track of the service lines, and then they have the work order system. And so it's kind of this constant dance between utility crew, full-blown service line replacement and distribution crew repair. Yep.
Because there were like 10, I believe, on Baldwin. And I just.
Yeah, and I do know that the distribution system supervisor is actually included in this department report, the fact that what he has on the board. So he'll say, you know, in here, for example, we completed, I want to say, you know, 37 repairs, and then it says, let's see here. And there's a, you know, there's a list of, these are the, we have the full board left. Like, this is how many services we have on the board that didn't make it off the board
Mm-hmm.
in his report. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe how extensive it is. And I just appreciate so much the fact that I can go and look at something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'll
Uh-huh,
say that.
uh-huh.
That's for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
One of your slides showed a repair on Dali,
Yes.
and it was a service line that was going off the main, but it had several full circle clamps on it, and that's probably one of the latest installations that all that work that was done by, I think, Tykert did that on Dali.
I forget who did that project.
But it was, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, but
Well, it does, I don't know that we did all of them.
That was the range. Yeah,
This was?
right.
Which was this leak in?
This is the, I believe.
What was like, we didn't do the whole street.
yeah.
May or may not.
The reason I bring it up is that we're always led to understand that all these breaks in that poly pipe and stuff is because of rock that gets pulled out and put back in. But if I remember on the extension of Dili, they had to haul all of it out and bring in, the fill was done with approved fill material. So,
Mhm.
you know, just
Right.
I thought it was peculiar that there would be so many full circle clamps on Dili, but maybe it was on the old part.
Yeah, definitely the old part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Got it. All right. Pat Royer, you have a question?
Yes, sir. This is for Damon, and good afternoon, Damon.
Good
I've had a
afternoon.
couple people approach me of late with notices of lead inspections coming up. And my question is the fact that so many homes in the past prior to the no lead bans took effect were constructed with, basically a PVC main line, but then copper and lead tin solder, 60/40 solder for couplings and solder and so forth. Well, that lead's the lead content's going to leach forever in some level. But what will the discovery of lead in those pipes? What impact will that have on the customers?
That's a great question. So really, in a nutshell, it's to be determined. We haven't heard from the EPA on what their plans are. But when it comes to the inventory, really our system plays almost as critical a role as the customer side. So for example, fortunately in this case, almost every single service line that we have is polypropylene. We don't have really a heck of a lot of, say, galvanized from before 86 with the potential for a connection to a different metal. And if we did, that would raise a flag for CCWD when it came to the lead service line inventory. But when it comes to the report out, and what the EPA is currently trying to understand is if the water purveyor has a plastic line and it's connected to a meter, and then the customer has an old galvanized line, that's going to be something that the EPA notes. But like I said, we don't know what they're going to do with that information yet. However, if it was the water purveyor had a galvanized line that perhaps was connected to some sort of brass or copper, and then the customer had a galvanized line, that would be a red flag for CCWD. And the reason that is because I want to say it was 2017, it might have been a little bit later. All the California water purveyors completed a lead inventory of their own infrastructure at that time. And so the EPA is using the information that they have based on our report out from 2017 to help inform this work that they're doing now.
Okay, so you've already experienced the resistance from the customers that just don't want to have their stuff inspected because of potential costs. So I just, the curiosity is there is what's trying to be discovered, what the impact's going to be, because they don't want to spend any more money than they already are. So
Yep.
what I relate to them as it comes to me is what you're giving to me now. So basically, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Yeah, so it's an information gathering effort. I've had plenty of phone calls, Pat, from folks that say respectfully, hey, don't come on my property. And we respect that. And also, one acceptable method is you can tell me what your service line is made out of, and we can include that in the inventory. So some folks have opted for that as well.
I heard that recently, as a matter of fact. So wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your answer.
You got it. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Anybody on a cell phone?
Look at that can and string.
Can and a string? Okay. That concludes your report. I appreciate your effort once again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you to all
Thank
the staff
you.
out there.
Okay, moving on to 5B, General Manager's report.
Right, thank you very much. A lot of great work going on in operations. We had an engineering committee meeting yesterday. There's also a lot of great work going on in engineering. Just a couple of the highlights. A couple of our lift stations down in Copper are about to come online. It's a big deal. We've been talking about that project for years, as long as I've been here and well before that. And so two of them are about to come online and the rest will follow hopefully by the end of the year. We're still on track for this year.
Are these the ones around the lake?
Yeah, so
Oh.
we're making
Finally?
a lot of progress on that project.
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So we're bringing that one to a close. Also, West Point and Wilseyville consolidation is getting close. There's still waiting for some parts, of course. The supply chain issues persist. But that's another big one that is coming close to completion as well. And we've made progress in Copper on the water system there. B tank is replaced and the clear wells under construction. So a lot of work going on the Copper water projects as well. And then, credit to our engineering team that we've got other projects now in the pipeline that are ready for construction as those ones are completed. A to B had a little bit of a holdup because of some supply chain issues, but it's ready to go soon. And we have, other projects, whether they're developer-driven projects or our own CIP projects, that are moving forward. So just a tremendous amount of work for always understaffed engineering department. So kudos to those guys. Admin services, also a ton of work going on right now, taking on the brunt of the hardest part of the Tyler implementation over these next few months, in addition to their already busy schedules. And so there's a lot of training going on right now in preparation for going live with the finance module later next month, and then HR module following soon after that. And then a lot of the implementation, the real heavy implementation work happens over the next few months. So everybody's taken on a lot. We had external relations last week and some good discussions there. And we've had a couple of external relation items that weren't on that agenda, but have come up recently. David and I met with Tyler Mayo, the GM at Blue Lake Springs Mutual Water Company this morning. And initially it started saying, they had sent a request for, if you recall, the way that our wholesale water supply agreement with Blue Lake Springs works is they have a max daily capacity of 100,000 gallons per day up until the end of September. And they're doing a tank replacement project where they have to install some temporary tanks, not replacement, sorry, rehabilitation of one of their tanks. They have to install some temporary tanks, and then they're going to have to refill the rehabbed tank. But long story short, it's going to require them to potentially have to exceed that 100,000 gallon per day max, for a couple of days maybe, and not very much over. We had talked, if you recall, a few years ago when they also requested a waiver of that capacity limit, but it was because their consumptive demand had actually gone up during COVID. They had a huge increase of full-time residents. They went from 15% full-time residents to close to 100%. Their consumptive demand went way up. And at that point, we agreed, because we weren't sure how that was going to play out. But we also made it clear to them that if it's driven by consumptive demand, we're going to need to, we need to collect additional capacity, or they need to buy additional capacity. When we met with them and understood what was going on this time, it's not that at all. They're essentially back down to 15% full-time occupancy, and they're in the subdivision. They're using somewhere between 40 to 80,000 gallons per day of our water. They still have their own sources of supply and their own treatment plant. So they're not anywhere near the capacity threshold. There may still be some discussions of them needing additional capacity in the future, but that's not what's driving this. And so we felt like it was the right thing to do to give them that flexibility around this construction project, to give them some flexibility this month. But overall, I just gotta say, I think Tyler Mayo is doing such a great job up there. He took on that role with relatively little experience for a GM position, and finished a major construction project up there. He's done some additional construction projects. That it's just a pretty well-run small organization, and I think Tyler really he's just really impressive. So he's doing a great job there. And we confirmed that, if you recall, the presentation Kelly gave recently included a slide of the state Senator Mayo from Angels Camp in the 1940s. And sure enough, that is Tyler's great grandfather. And he was a big player in encouraging the water agencies to take local control of water resources up here, and helped CCWD during that formation in those early days. And so it's a nice kind of piece of the history that Tyler is still in the water business up there. So we're going to invite him to the next time we give that presentation.
Excuse me, the
Yes.
contract that we have with them, where are we in that?
It's working well. We talked about having, remember, we used to do those regular check-ins with our one or two of our directors and one or two of theirs. And we want to do that again. They've had a lot of turnover. I stopped representing Blue Lake Springs right before I started at
Right.
CCWD 5 or 6 years ago, and there's only one of those of their 7 board members, only one is left from just that period of time. So there's been a lot of turnover on their board. So I think it'd be a good idea for us to have another one of those check-in meetings with a couple of their board members. But yeah, overall the contract's doing what it's supposed to do. And then the presentation we gave at the last board meeting that Kelly gave on the Norfolk project and the history of CCWD, we went from here to UPUD that night and gave that presentation at UPUD, and you'll be shocked to hear that Kelly absolutely knocked it out of the park and did just a phenomenal job. We've got nothing but rave positive reviews in response to that. There was a group of their irrigators were there. Dwayne Onedo came to the presentation, in addition to some of their irrigation customers that have been part of the organization for a long time. And both from their board and the public that was there. There was a round of applause at the end, and Jessica said that just never happens at their board meetings. There was unanimous, really positive response to Kelly's presentation. He did a great job, and Jessica said to me at one point the next day, she said, yeah, even our attorney let me know how impressed he was and how blown away he was by it. And I just said, yeah, it's easy to impress an attorney, but the old ranchers, that to me was really such.
Where was the presentation at their
At
office?
UPUD's board meeting, yeah.
Really, in that small office?
Yeah, they pack a lot of people in there.
Yeah, they do. They can,
Did you catch it? Were you
No.
here? Well, you were gone, right?
Mhm. Yeah, no, I have the ability to watch it though.
Yeah.
I just haven't watched it yet, but I will before external relations or something.
So just, kind of universal, really positive response to that. We're still trying to work with Angels Camp to see if there's a time to present there, but I think we might have some other opportunities that we're looking forward to presenting
Well.
again.
Aqua's next.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, Kelly, you ready?
at some point, yeah, that might be a good topic to discuss.
I think we know someone who has something to do with Aqua.
We do.
Uh-huh.
We, Michael, you and I talked a little bit about this, but I mean, I think it might be a good opportunity to maybe have an encore presentation here. And actually invite some of those, some of the founders of that project, some of the guys that were on our board back then, some of the people that, led that way.
Yeah.
Oh,
that'd be awesome.
Oh,
Perhaps-
that'd be fabulous.
Perhaps, have a resolution, of gratitude. It was a significant thing that occurred.
Yeah.
And we're about to go through it again, but I really think we need to give credit to those folks that had that vision back in the day.
Yeah.
Many of them probably aren't with us, but all that are here deserve, some gratitude and some appreciation. So I would like to see if we can make that happen.
I think it's a phenomenal
Oh,
idea.
that's a great
Talked about it a
idea,
little bit
Jeff.
already since you
Yeah.
mentioned that, and everybody I've talked to, I think we're gonna try to find a time to make that happen.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and even if, as you say, a lot of them are gone, if you would invite someone from their family, that
Right.
would be very, I think that would be very nice.
Meaningful, absolutely. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we'll work on
Oh, okay. See? Kelly, goodbye.
that. More work for Kevin.
Okay,
So good at it, so.
does that conclude your comments?
No,
I like where you're headed though, Russ. That's good.
My third item.
I'm pushing.
All right, I'll go quicker. We continue to meet with the Army Corps on Copper Cove wastewater treatment plant implementation. It's a bureaucratic slog, but we're hopefully making some progress in kind of redefining the project to include the full 13.2 million that's been appropriated, and getting it on a more efficient path going forward. A lot of design there. I think the positive is there has been a lot of progress made on the design and the engineering work and the environmental review work. And so those things are moving forward. It's just a question of managing the actual implementation and construction that we're still kind of working through with them. But those meetings are happening regularly, and we'll keep reporting back on it. We had a separate meeting with UPUD on the possibility of an emergency intertie between our distribution systems. We've talked about that a lot over the years, but those discussions seem to be kind of escalating to include the engineering folks, and getting it, the objective, I think, is to get it to a point where we can, and UPUD really would be the lead applicant, but getting the project developed to a point where we can start to make it competitive for grant funds. A lot of work going on in the Norfolk project, both in terms of relicensing, planning, and negotiations. So we'll probably bring some. We're not, at a point yet where there's other than some of the outreach that we're already doing, real detailed updates for public yet, but we're probably getting close to that point where we'll start to provide some more detailed updates. Office of Emergency Services, Damon and others met with the new OES director, and some of this came out of both our quarterly utilities committee meetings, but also the H4U, the Highway 4 discussions, and wanting to improve emergency response planning and coordination. And the new Calaveras OES director was all in favor of that, and so he's helping actually to coordinate that
And who is
effort.
that?
Eric Holt. Remarkably also has a handlebar mustache. I don't know how they found 3 in a row, but they did.
Uh-huh.
But no, he's great. He's been very responsive. He's been very responsive to the water agencies and wanting all of us, helping bring us together and make sure that we're coordinating emergency response planning. So that's a nice spin-off from those Highway 4 meetings that work is moving forward. There is a admin draft groundwater sustainability plan that has been circulated for to an updated GSP. It's out right now. We don't see any major red flags. We might have some minor comments we submit later this week, but it starts the clock on what is, not tight, but a timeline to get us to approval. So we'll be giving some presentations to the board on what those updates are, and they will have to approve it probably in December, maybe by mid-January at the latest, but we'll probably bring it back to the board in mid-December for approval. I think that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, you mentioned that last part about the groundwater sustainability report and all that. We're still coordinating with the county on that.
Yeah, those are kind of on parallel tracks right now. We had to kind of refocus everybody on the GSB while that is out, but we'll continue having those discussions.
Okay. All right. Coming back to item 6, board reports. Can we start with Bertha?
Oh, okay, you guys. I went to a great event up in Coulterville. And there is no water in Coulterville. It was a gold dredging thing, and there was so little water that they couldn't get out there and look for gold, but it was very, very interesting. And, the concerns about water, and it's what, El Nino, or what are we going into this coming year?
Winter. We're gonna have a winter.
When it gets a little closer, we might give you a forecast for the winter, but not sure yet.
Okay, well, it was very interesting. These were people from all over the state, and it was just great event.
Just for purely sort of self-defense mechanism purposes, I'm convinced we're not going to get a drop of rain this year, because we've had 2 good water years in a row, and I've lived in California enough to know that doesn't last. So I'm just preparing myself for drought, and and hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, as I say, they were ready to pan, but too bad. That's all I came back with, just a good time.
Does that conclude your report? No future agenda items recommended?
No, I like Jeff's idea about having that.
Oh, I thought you meant winter.
That's what I was going to say.
Both are good ideas.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay, that's it.
Director Davidson?
Yeah, I just wanted a couple little things. One, I had an opportunity to meet with some of our employees, TSCIU, the other day, and it was, I don't do that often enough, and I really appreciate their comments and the conversation that we had. Hopefully we'll have something about that in the future, but I did appreciate the opportunity. Also, recently there was a social media post that basically insinuated that we are spending $500,000 to buy chemicals to poison our drinking water quality. It was expanded upon by a couple folks that really should have known better. I think our water quality reports are accessible to everybody. I know that we've put out a recent post trying to clarify that, but I will tell you that falsehood has trickled out already. Even though I think the information that was put on there was intended to be false and they knew it was false. There are people that knew better that tried to make it into a bigger thing than it is. And it's unfortunate that we have to take extra steps and spend extra staff time. This kind of action puts our staff at risk, as far as I'm concerned. When you're trying to tarnish the district that's done so much, and we have a great quality product, we have great staff, it's just really extremely unfortunate and shameful, to be honest. But I'm sure we'll be able to,
Rise above
give
it.
people the correct information, the truth about what we do and the quality of not just our water and wastewater service, but our staff. So with that, I'll leave that alone. Again, it's very unfortunate. That's it.
Absolutely.
That conclude your comments? Okay. Director Cicada?
For me, yeah, I'm sorry to hear about that post. That's terrible. Anyhow, in our public comment, it was brought up about our grants and updates on grants. So I agree, and I know we've talked about doing it before. Should we have like a quarterly grant update at either the finance committee meeting or here? I'd like to see that information. And-
We talk about the CIP projects and the sources of funding and engineering committee in detail. That's not usually something we bring to finance committee.
Well, okay, and it can stay at engineering, because I usually listen in, but I think at some point it'd be nice to have it at the open meeting. I like the idea of, we've applied for XYZ and what the status is, maybe even a little bit more history on what it is you're trying to achieve or what project you want to get done with that. They each have their own requirements of what project would qualify for. And maybe quarterly's okay, but I think in an open meeting, it would be nice. I do listen into the engineering usually, but I think we should work on that because I know it's been talked about before. Maybe in external relations, we brought it up too.
It could be a part of the agenda
Right,
somewhere.
right.
Michael?
Quarterly or something,
Yeah.
we just bring up, maybe spend 10, 15 minutes giving us an idea. We do have that consultant that's working on grant information, so I haven't heard an update on that for a while. So
Sure.
I'd like to kind of see that, and if it is done in engineering, then one of these gentlemen should go ahead and give a brief report on that. Let them do it. Anyhow, I think, if we want to do anything about the West Point, or we're good on that? What you called me in earlier, with the water? Is that
We can
now?
mention that real quickly. There's a water quality issue in West Point today. We're still trying to track down the cause of it, but we've notified the
Right.
relevant folks and taken some other kind of mitigation steps. But we're still kind of track down the cause and
Perfect.
flushing the system to make sure it's
But the system's been flushed, so is it kind of fixed for the moment? Now we just got to figure out the cause.
happening very,
Awesome,
very
thank you.
quickly. So yes, that's
You
a
guys are on it,
real-time update.
and we
There you go.
know that by the reports we get.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, and so we do have a finance next Tuesday.
Yes, as far as I know, right? That's what I have on my calendar.
I believe.
It is, unless it's been changed, the 17th. 1 o'clock. We all good?
Mhm.
Okay, your turn.
My turn. All right. Well, my observation about social media wasn't as damaging, I guess it would be my assessment of what you were talking about. But there was a comment the other day and a bunch of follow-up comments that the poster said something about the fact that we were closer to getting that $13 million grant for the improvements in Copper Cove. at their wastewater treatment plant down there. And it was immediately suggested that, oh, well, with that amount of money coming in, they'll immediately reduce our rates. And I don't know. I don't know how we can adequately respond to stuff like that, but I mean, that is, and then you get people that jump into that discussion and it just goes on and on. Maybe I'm overly sensitive about that, but it just is very alarming to me that we can be beat up for doing a good job, you know, in a way. That's what it feels like to me. So anyway, I just wish that people would be more, I don't know, just have a little bit more trust in what we're doing here, because we are trying to do the best job for our customers and for the county. But okay, I guess I can quit playing my violin. But yeah.
The public comment and director's
On
comments.
general manager, probably. Great.
Okay, I see a couple of people, Francisco and maybe Pat Roy, wanting to make a comment.
Yes, sir. Pat Roy here. 2 points. Number one is I totally agree with Mrs. Sakata about expanding the amount of information on grants for the public, because more information is always better than less, and it increases understanding. Jeff, this is directed totally towards your observations on social media. I am absolutely aware of what you observed and what you felt on the situation. There are a couple people in the area that are grossly uninformed about our water qualities and water quality reports. And just to be clear, I've gone to create great effort to point them in the direction of our water quality reports, the text within them, and the fact that there are many laws that govern the type and the amount of chemicals that are used in our water. So I totally understand where you're coming from on that, and I'll help wherever I can in offsetting that kind of misinformation. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Pat.
Good comment. Francisco, do you have something?
Those comments.
Well, I was similarly trying to do what Pat was referring to and direct people into the truth, and try to get all this misunderstanding and misinformation out of the way. And I just am reminded in my previous county, there was what was called the fluoride wars, because one group of people believed strongly in adding fluoride to the drinking water, and another group of people believe strongly in the opposite. And you're going to run into that. And the only way to shape the situation is to stay strictly on what you know to be the truth. And that's what we try to do. And I'm committed to staying on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else want to comment on board comments?
One more, if I may, Pat Roy, once again. The issues that are being encountered with social media might be indicative of a need to redouble Kelly's efforts on educating the public on how to access CCWD website and information sources. It does seem that our public is generally woefully misinformed, and that's largely their own fault. But a little more effort to show them the way might be helpful.
All right, so noted.
Well, this is not a discussion item.
Not a discussion item.
I wish it was.
Oh, okay. Want to put that on a future agenda?
Maybe we should.
Okay. All right. That concludes our reports, and the only thing remaining is the announcement of the future board meetings. Wednesday, September 25th, and then followed by Wednesday, October the 9th. Let me see. I will put you on not alert, isn't the right word, but I think I'm going to have to miss the meeting on the October 23rd meeting. I have an obligation elsewhere. So with that, we're going into closed session. We have a conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivision D2 of the Government Code, section 54956.9. One potential case will be returning to report out on any reportable action after that. So thank you for attending.